Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start this meeting. It's 12:07. The opening of the meeting for our budget. Approve the agenda.
We have a short question period before. Any questions, or would you like us to go ahead with the presentation of the budget right away? And we have another question period right after budget. Okay.
Okay, no. Okay, budget.
Okay. So first off, I want to say that we've been working for many months with council on this budget. We knew it was going to be a big subject of conversation, and we knew we would have to make some very hard decision on this budget. It's been the hardest in 13 years at the municipality because we know there's so many impacts on the ratepayers with the new evaluations. We did some cuts, a lot of cuts, so we'll just go down. In the paper you have the budget of 2024, how it was adopted last year, and then we have 2025. So if we start with council, and one thing I'll say too is we use the cost of living based by Statistique Québec, for the province of Quebec, which is at 4.5. So this year for council, we gave all of our elected officials that's been working very hard this year a 4.5 increase. Where we did some cuts is in the FQM Congress. So every year we have councillors attending the FQM. We usually send 4 people, so usually it's 3 elected officials and myself. This year we cut that out of the budget. We're only sending 2 people at the FQM for 2025. And if ever, because of what everything is going on right now, if somebody needs to go to Quebec City to meet with municipal affairs or whatsoever, this budget is going to be reallocated to that potentially. So we may have nobody going next year. So that's how we were able to cut down on this budget. For human resources, well, again, even for the employees, we had some employees that worked very hard this year, that went above and beyond and were deserving of a raise. However, we didn't give any individual raise this year to any employee. Everybody got the same thing as council. It was cost of living, so 4.5 increase, which is still very much appreciated. For administration, we have an increase of about $30,000, and that is being explained by, again, for the administration, something I'll say. We did some cuts there too. The ADMQ Congress, usually I go to that in June. We cut that out of the budget. There's no traveling. Basically, for all the employees, we're not going to any outside Congress, and there's no training. All of that has been cut. So that's what I have for this. Now, for elections, so for election, what we've been doing for the last couple of years is instead of in the election year having a big expense for the election, we actually budget every year $5,000 for the election, so it's not one big cost on that year. So we budgeted again that $5,000 this year. Donation is one part of our budget that we completely cut most of it out. So we have a donation policy at the municipality that any non-profit organization or association in our municipality can apply and request some funding, and we usually put aside $5,000 for that. So this year we cut the $5,000. Basically the donations that we have is $500 for each of our churches. We know that our churches, they do need our help. Anglican Church were able to change some of their roof because of some of the donation we've been giving in from the community. So we kept that in the budget. Services entails Our policing services, so we pay every year a certain amount to the SQ. So for 2025, just a minute. So for 2025, we're looking at about $50,000, and that's also where we have our cost for the intermunicipal agreement with Casabazua, so for fire covering, which is $40,000. So that's what's in services. For roads, we did some cuts there too. We're going to have the regular maintenance that we have every year, and that's about it. So we were able to basically have the same budget as last year. Vehicle maintenance. Here we have an increase because we purchased a grader last year. So the increase in here is strictly the monthly payment of that grader. Other than that, we did a lot of maintenance on our vehicle for 2024. So we're not seeing any major reparation for next year, but we kept a small budget in case something happens. Municipal properties, we have an increase because we carried forward some of the projects that we weren't able to finish in 2024. And most of the projects under municipal properties are all funded by grants, external grants. So if we take, for example, our municipal park, a lot of investment was made there, but we got a $100,000 grant for that. Mount O'Brien, that's one thing we'll be working on next year, and that's some of the money that we carried forward. We didn't spend any of the money on the grant. We only bought 4 outhouses this year, so we carried forward the rest of the money for that, which is covered by another grant from the FFR4 of $100,000. Snow removal, we did some cuts in there. In May, we cut a position in the snow removal because we were kind of anticipating this budget, so we knew. So we cut down a position there, and we have a budget similar to this year for next year. Streets light, we increased our budget by $2,000 because right now the lighting network is owned by Hydro-Quebec, but the municipality, we've been asking Hydro-Quebec to repurchase our own network. We would like to change some of the lighting to LED, which would be more efficient and would last longer and would cost less on our bills. So we increased our budget a little bit there just to be able to do some of the maintenance work on our network that in the long term we're going to save with the LED. Waste management, again, we have a small increase, but we were able to balance as compared to last year. A little bit of the increase will be that we're now we're going to be starting the composting system, so we're going to have to pay for that. However, we're hoping that the composting system is going to work great and that our cost for garbage is going to go down, be reducing, and it's kind of going to be equivalent after that. Inspection, we cut down again, like I just said, our building inspector will not be attending her annual COMBEC meeting, and no training for this year. So basically the costs that are in there is just for, we're a member of the COMBEC, which has a lot of resources for the municipal inspector, and that's about it. Library went up by $400, and basically we explained that with a portion of one of our employees' salary is appropriated to the library, so it's basically cost of living of that salary. Our shares, this is where we're saving. So we can see here again how our shares from last year were miscalculated. So our total expenses for this year are quite comparable as last year, which is very good considering that there's always cost of living. Then if we go in the revenue section, so again, there's a portion that is carried over. That is, a lot of it is explained by the grant money that we weren't able to spend this year that we're carrying forward. So we have $92,000 almost $93,000 that we're carrying forward from the 2024 budget. Then we have our revenues and GST and QST rebates, interest and taxes. We usually are looking at about $2,000 a year. Transfers, this is when we have a sale in our municipality and we charge mutation, so that's a revenue that we have. And yes, we have a lot of activity on our territory, so this amount is usually going up every year. So to be not too, we know that the real estate is going down, so that's why we estimated our revenues a little lower next year compared to what we were anticipating for 2024. Public land. So we hear a lot of people saying, oh, our mill rate is high, but what we would like to also explain today, take the opportunity to explain today, is that 50% of our territory is public land, which means we do not tax this public land. We're not receiving any income except $60,000, which is quite ridiculous in my opinion. When we were at the FQM in September, the person talking for the Liberal Party was suggesting that in the next provincial election, they are saying that it's now time that the government pay their municipal tax on the land that they have, because this is not fair. We are a small municipality. We have to operate on a smaller budget because there's a lot of land that we're not taxing. So we're hoping that this is going to be maybe a second fight for the task force, that the provincial government starts paying their taxes, and that we will be able to considerably lower even more our mill rate. Permits, we have a lot of activity on our territory. We saw a revenue in our permits of $45,000 in 2024, which we had budgeted 25 at the time. So we wanted to be kosher and budget 25, and let's hope that we have extra money next year again with people doing construction work and renovation work. MMQ, we're part of a mutual with the municipalities of Quebec, and we're a mutual, and every year we get rebates, so we get about $1,000. Metal, that is the revenue of the metal that we have at our transfer site. Recycle Quebec, they have a grant, so that's why we want to encourage people to put less in their garbage and more in composting and recycling, because the more we recycle and compost and the less tonnage we have in our garbage, the higher these numbers are going to go from Recycle Quebec. Bylaw PIP, this is a bylaw that the municipality has, that any queries or pit on our territory, they have to pay a tax based on whatever tonnage is leaving the pit and going on our road, accessing our road system. So we don't have a lot in our municipality, but it's still a small revenue we're getting. In grants, we got a lot of grants last year. A lot of them were closed. This year we're looking at about 421,000 with the projects that we have that we're finishing, and then we have our summer camp, which brings in a revenue of about $25,000. I'm happy to say that in the last 2 years, because the summer camp was developing, council had agreed to budget some funds from the taxpayers into this summer camp. This year we're the first year that we actually made money, and this summer camp didn't cost anything to the ratepayer. Last year it cost, in 2024, it was about $5,000, 2023, sorry, it was about $5,000 that we had to take from the municipal funds, but this year we made, I think it was $1,200, which is amazing. So we were able to create more revenues because now we're offering weekly and daily fees for people to attend, and that put up our revenues for the summer camp. So we can see that our revenues are lower than last year, and that is explained with the grants, which grants are basically in and out in our budget. So for 2025, we were able to lower our mill rate by 30%, which is amazing in my eyes. So compared to a mill rate of 1.1393, we're looking at a mill rate of 0.77 and 94. So this is the budget proposed today. Do we have any questions on this budget?
I do, but you gotta remember I'm sitting on this side of the table. So, no, and I'm gonna try to be good, but I mean, I think it's obvious. Okay, so the first thing is, all employees got a raise of 4.5%. I find that a bit high, and I'm just giving my opinion. You have some municipal employees who totally exceed, and others who do what is required. Could you not have a scale? And the same thing for council, because you have council members who totally exceed and others who do not meet. Could you not have a scale of do not meet, met, and exceed? And you get your increase based on if you're exceeding, if you're meeting, or if you do not meet.
Accordingly.
Exactly. That's my thing. I've always seen people being rated like in places of business like that because, example, I mean, Isabel, like you so exceeded this year. No, I'm serious, and it's known to everybody. You're going to get the same increase as someone else who just did what was required. That's my opinion, and the same with council. Anyone have any comments about that one?
I think we could develop a policy regarding this. I know in Quebec City, Sydney and I followed information session regarding this, and we were actually I think it's something that we could even just, what do we take for our EPC? So what number do we take? Do we take a month? Do we take a month in specific? Do we take an average of a whole year? So I think there's room here to, yes, develop a policy that would have all of this in it.
I think it's easier to develop a policy for the employees that way than for council.
I knew that. I was sure you were going to say that.
Yeah, I think for council, it's sort of at election time is when the ratepayers speak, and that's when you know if you've done your job accordingly or not. I think it's not fair for us as councillors to say, well, Sydney and Guy sit on the task force, they did more than, Mona and Jim, so they should, I don't think it's really fair for us to say that and to grade ourselves that way. That's sort of why, the cost of living as a basis point.
I just thought I'd throw it in.
No, I think it's excellent idea.
But definitely for employees, I was just putting it all in the same silo.
Yeah.
For employees, I think employees should be paid based on performance, and everyone should not be in the same boat.
Yeah.
And I think that that's fair. Someone who exceeds should be rewarded for it. Someone who's just under the radar or right at the line, you don't get the same raise as someone who exceeds.
Yeah.
I think there's room to grow on this comment. Yes.
Thank you.
I guess on that same point, I just wanted to ask, and I think it's good if you're using cost of living. Is that a standard practice that you've been doing year over year? Or is this just something that's done one-off? I'm just trying to understand because you're using the 2023 index, which obviously inflation was much higher than. I know for a fact, I'll speak for myself in the federal government in some ways and others, we won't be getting anywhere close to 4.5% this year because they're using more current data and then going back a couple of years. So I'm just wondering if you're doing it year over year, it's a catching up of the COVID years and the high inflation, makes sense. If it's a one-off, I would say maybe you're using a bit of a flawed baseline year. And I'm not saying this to be jealous, I think it's good if you do that practice, but it's just to understand how you're doing it.
Usually we we don't, when it comes to employee's salary, we usually have a one-on-one with each employee, how the review of their year, and that's how we base it. This year, because of financial, we don't know what's gonna happen first of all with the MRC, so we had to set aside legal fees for that. And we just thought it would be more safe for us to do an overall instead of an individual evaluation of each.
So I'm just saying it may be quite high, a bit higher, because you're going back 2 years in your consumer price index, versus if you would look at this year as a baseline.
Well, we don't have the numbers are not published yet for 2024.
I know, but even if you look at an average of X amount of months of this year. Anyways, I don't want to rob, like, some people are deserving, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying, like, methodology-wise, you're kind of using a high base year. That's it. Other question, I guess, on this, where are we showing the amount of money that's coming in from our taxes? Is that the evaluation line?
The evaluation line, so this is the amount, our new evaluation.
That's not what the rate, like, so you have the mill rate.
So you
what's
take-
the actual amount that's
So
coming
you
in?
take the 143 number
Times this.
times the mill rate.
So why are we not showing it? We can do the calculation.
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
Isn't the amount that comes in from taxes,
it's about
the
one.
difference between your expenditures and
Yes.
your revenue?
Yes,
So that was something like 1.12
yeah, so you see
million.
here that the non-revenues are there, total expenditure, and then I have a formula in here that calculates
Yeah,
the
so
mill rate.
it's just a little over $1.1 million.
Exactly,
And the mill rate then is, you raise that amount by the mill rate times the evaluation.
yeah.
Yes, okay, so it's 1 point.
Well, it's the mill rate times the evaluation divided by 100.
Yeah.
The mill rate is
So
per
your
100.
missing figure is 1.12.
It's 1.2, about, we're beginning in taxes about 1.2 million.
And this is for 2025?
Yes.
And what was it last, for 2024?
24, I don't have my phone because it's there, so I don't have access to the calculator.
Well, the tax revenue last year was 850,000.
A little bit more than the, yeah, maybe I have it here. Yeah, 850 last year.
All right. Good.
The difference between expenditures and revenue.
Exactly,
Because you have to balance your budget.
exactly. And in Quebec, we're not allowed to go in a deficit. And the other thing that we had to be conservative in our budget as well is that we don't know how many people are going to be asking for a revaluation. This is going to be affecting our revenues right there. Because if, for example, you, Mr. Chambers, I'm just using numbers, you're evaluated at 500,000 right now, you come in March and Shell's like, oh no, I would value you at 300 instead, and then you go and ask for a reevaluation and you're going down, that means your taxes are going down, our revenue is going down. So it's hard in the first year of a triennial role to establish a budget because there's a lot of things that we don't know what's going to happen. And we've been studying the new role for months. Angela has been creating a table, and I can see a lot of people that could ask for a reevaluation and they would be going down. So we cut our mill rate down. But we still had to be careful because we don't want in October to be like, oh no, all these people asked for a reevaluation, it's going down, our revenues are going down, we cannot pay our invoices anymore, so we have to send a second tax bill in October because by law we're not allowed to go in a deficit. So it's that we had to keep that into consideration as well with the creation of this budget.
I will say at first glance, it looks like you've done a good job at trying to do what you can and balance out things. Obviously, cost of everything is not going down, so we appreciate it. And you had spoken about reducing the mill rate, so it'll be interesting to see how that translates in our tax bills, but thanks.
I did a table that I could share on the screen of different scenarios and how people are impacted differently with their evaluation. And we are all aware, we've played with that table at the council table too. We have some people that are going to be saving on their tax bill, but unfortunately we still have ratepayers that their tax bill is going to go up and going to be going up quite a bit, and we feel really awkward in this position. You know, like we've been working very hard on this budget again, and it's like Charles is proposing at the MRC, the row. I think it's something that we should be doing too at a municipal level too. I don't think we should have one mill rate for everybody, because not everybody are using the services the same. We have different realities in our municipality. We have people on private roads that's an extra expense. They have their tax bill, but they have the maintenance of their private road, the plowing of their private road, and like Shal was saying, to pick up the garbage of so-and-so here on Harrison is less expensive than picking up the garbage at somewhere that is farther from our core center. So I think there too, there's a lot that we could learn.
I mean, just, the other morning I did a quick run to try and assess what the impact, what the new total evaluation is for the George Lake area. It isn't all the properties, only 82 of the properties, no, some of which are taken. And it came to roughly $17.1 million out of your 143 or 4 it is.
Yeah.
So roughly 12% of the value of the municipality can be found in the 82 or so properties around George Lake. And to your point that you've just made, we're a neighborhood with, to use the phrase from earlier this morning, we're a neighborhood with mostly private roads and mostly no draw on your services. So if you're thinking about how to improve the municipal tax situation, then thinking about that challenge is something that we will be interested as taxpayers in seeing how you deal with it. We've been, I only speak for myself and the past, we've been happy with the way that we've been able to work with council from that part of the woods. You know, the accommodations we came to around garbage collection, while not ideal, were better than what had been proposed. And so, but when you look at us, we're a good piece of your tax base and a small piece of your costs. And we need to think about how that goes, because I pay another set of taxes every year to keep the roads in condition and plowed in the winter. And other people pay those other costs. I mean, I understand that. And there are some municipalities where that's taken into account. And we need to think about how we can do that. Now, we have bigger problems at the moment with the MRC and the way the other thing goes. But it's useful for you to remember that we represent about 12% of your tax base. And that's not all of the southeast corner. It isn't, you know, Black McCoglin, cottages, it isn't that. It's just the sort of watershed for George Lake. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to bring up, when you said you weren't allotting money for going to FQM, or if with everything that was being said today, and if something came up and, you know, someone from the municipality had to go to make sure that we are up to par with what we asked, are you is there money there that you can do that, or?
Yes, we always have like a floating fund, if you'd like, that we keep in our budget with the extra money to be able to reallocate in different sector if ever, for example, we need to travel, or if something happens, like one of our big machinery breaks and we only budgeted 2,000 for that year, so we always have a fund that we can reallocate if needed.
Okay. Also, we have one more thing. If the MRC shares, should there be a miracle and they hand back some money, where will you put it? Would it be reflected in the 2025 or 2026 budget?
I think we haven't decided yet what we would do with that extra money.
If a miracle happens?
Exactly, because we have to consider too, like we don't know, like I mentioned, like the legal fees that are gonna come up with this situation. So for now, I think we're just gonna be able to analyze the situation once we're at the end to see how much it costs versus how much we're saving on our shares.
And to clarify, we have not yet paid those shares to the MRC. We've, as I stated in the opening speech, we have proposed and asked them to accept that we pay the actual amount. There's been no resolution, no discussion at the Council of Mayors table on that yet. So we have that money set aside, accounted for in the budget for that. So if we get it back, then that's a discussion that will have to happen then. We haven't reallocated it yet. Kind of we don't want to jinx ourselves, you know? We don't want to spend it before we essentially have it. So when we get it back,
Right. Right.
we will have those discussions then.
Okay, very good.
Does Alleyn-Cawood have a surplus situation, like a balance out there?
We keep it pretty low every year. We don't really, because when I first started, it was explained to me by our accountant at the time, Mr. Smith, which is very knowledgeable, and I'm very happy that I worked with him for many years. In the government's eyes, it's not good to have a big surplus, because then when you're asking for grants, which we did in the last couple of years, and we've been so lucky with our grants, then they see that you have a surplus, so they're kind of questioning that aspect. So every year we try to keep our surplus very low, and if we do, we carry forward usually in our next year budget, because usually our surplus are coming, like I said, mentioned earlier, from projects that we weren't able to complete in this year or stuff like that. But usually that's what we do. We carry it in the next year to be able to finalize these projects.
Christian, you said the council looked at a bit of numbers to get a sense of what this mill rate and the evaluations would be for ratepayers. Can you provide a sense, if you're using, I don't know, maybe an average of 85% or whatever the income, what's a typical effect on a tax bill at maybe different levels? Like, do you have something that you can share to provide a bit of a
I'll show you.
comparison?
I'll show you exactly. So in our package from Quebec City, that was something we stated in this, that we've been hearing a lot of people, telling us,
No,
Bigger, make it
increase the size.
just a minute.
On what?
Okay, this is what, but I don't know why the table, just a minute, I'll try and pull up the PDF version of this. Okay, you don't need this, it's just explaining, but this is the table we have. So we've been explaining that's what we wanted to explain to the government, that adjusting our mill rate is a Band-Aid. It's not the solution, because like you can see here, we have the different increase in here, how people were affected with the new rules. how much their taxes were with 2024. And then we said if we cut it in half, if we charge only 50% of our mill rate, how is it going to affect everybody? If we charge 65% of our mill rate, which I think we're close to, this is how people are going to be affected. So we did this scenario with different mill rates, and it was pretty shocking to see that as soon as you pass the 100% mark, then even if you cut it in half, you're almost looking at the same. So everything after 100% increase, you're seeing right away. Like even if it's cut in half, there's increases. So that's why it was so hard to do this budget, because no matter, and we are not able to cut it in half. We wish we were, but I think at 65 it's pretty good. So that's why it was pretty hard to do the budget, because we're seeing people that have increased like 300, 400, like 500, and so on. 3,000, 4,000. So we can see the direct effect on their tax bill. So yes, we did this exercise to be able to see, depending on what we do with our mill rate, how is it going to affect people, and we wanted to see the large scale. So we took people from different increases to be able to see how ratepayers are going to be affected with our mill rate.
And also, if you have time, I know that word is very important, to look at what Cheryl was saying, the community, or the blocks.
No, we requested that information. I did a request access to information to FQM in November. We haven't received the data, because that will be something that will be helping us as well, even if we decide to change the way we're taxing people, if we want to tax, because Quebec, Gatineau did that last year. They proposed that they, depending on the neighborhood you're in, not everybody has the same mill rate. So that was something we wanted to look at, to see how they did their neighborhood, to see if that could be something that we could do as well. But we don't have this data, so we're waiting for that to be able to review it. We're hoping we're going to get it, because we are so lucky to have Shal working with us, and like today was free of charge. Like we paid him to do his 8th evaluation, and I'm on the phone with him almost weekly, and he's like never charged anything about, like, other than the first initial mandate we gave him. So we're extremely lucky. So I want to use his expertise as much as I can. So for sure we want those units to see if they're okay, and then when we're going to be preparing our budget next year, maybe we can see another type of taxation. Maybe we could do a differing, like a tax differently per neighborhood. That's something we could see for sure.
In the row.
In the row, yeah.
Is that something you will share?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is public. It was in our document for Quebec City. So if you want any, we're probably going to post our document that we sent to Quebec City. It's only in French, unfortunately, we're sorry. But we're probably going to share it on our website. We wanted to wait till today before doing it. But we'll probably share that. So this is what we're explaining in here to Quebec City, because we made an interview with Radio-Canada, and the president of the FQM was like, oh, I don't know why they're saying it's a big thing. They can just adjust their mill rate. So when we saw him in Quebec City at the end of September, we challenged him on that. I told him, I read your comment on Radio-Canada, and I completely disagree with you. Fixing the mill rate is not going to help our ratepayers at all. We can do so much, but with people having increased from 16% to 4,000%, people are going to see different, their tax bill are all going to be affected differently. So he agreed, and he got a copy of this, and so yeah.
Check it in the mail.
Yeah.
Oh, here here. So the first column here is the roll in 2022, how it was deposited. And then we have 2025, the new values. And then the increase in percentage, and then how much was their tax bill for 2024, and then we did the different scenarios, different type of mill rates.
The farther right is if you would have kept it as.
The same.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah, so we did 50, 65, 85, and then 100%.
And you landed around 70.
Yeah, we're about there. So, any other questions? No other questions? Ready to adopt the budget? Guy, you're adopting? Okay. Perfect. Adjournment? Thank you. Thank you.
Send us the bill.
So we're hoping to see in March. We're
Don't
gonna have
worry.
another meeting in March.
It's coming.
The tax bill should come in January.